Hello students, this is Brother Man for CIT 381, Business Intelligence and Analytics. And I wanted to quickly share how to accomplish this week's assignment, week 5, assignment number 2. We're looking at different charts and graphs, so I'll quickly go through this so to kind of give you an idea of what you'll be asked to do. First of all, I've taken on each of these tabs, I've taken the screenshot that the assignment said that the end result should look like, so that I can kind of see what I'm doing as I build it here. So when we look at this first one, this hot dog chart, well, it's not called the hot dog chart, but the hot dog stand behind the chart here. We look at revenue, cost, and profit over time. So that tells us that we want to select time, which in this case is month, revenue, cost, and profit. So I'm going to select those, and now I'm going to insert a chart. And in this particular chart, I want to do a line chart. And you'll notice that I have kind of the start of what my end result needs to look like here. Couple changes here. So first of all, chart title. Depending on if you're Mac or Windows, it shouldn't matter, but just double clicking chart title, you can now change those items as needed. So revenue, cost, profit over time. And then of course you can select those and use your normal icons here to change size and font and whatnot. Over here on the left-hand side, so our axes shows that this is in thousands. When you look at the format axes capabilities that we have here, you can see that we can go through and make changes to the different style formats, fonts, all of the fun stuff there. For this particular one, let's go ahead and display units in thousands. And you'll notice that that makes that change. Again, we can bold that, change the font, whatever else we want to do. Now let's look down here at our x-axis where it shows the time frame here for our months. So one thing that we want to look at to do is make this the horizontal alignment. And we made that change, no problem. Now the colors of the charts, as we select each one of these lines, this first one shows green as the color, so let's go ahead and make that green. Feel free to choose any color green that you want. The second one here shows blue, so we will choose a blue color. And finally red, and we'll choose a different color red here. So now we've got those different changes. Down here on the bottom, you can see the legend. We want the legend on the right-hand side, so we'll make that change as well. So now what we want to look at is putting behind the scenes. We want that image there. Be sure to select the plot area and not the entire chart for the image. So when we select the plot area, we can now look at our options over here and say that we want to insert a picture. And it just so happens that that was the last picture that I had in my clipboard, but you can search for that if you've saved it somewhere and insert a picture there. Also with the picture, when you first insert it, it may be a little darker like that, so go ahead and adjust the transparency so that you can still see the chart with the picture there behind it. And finally, let's go ahead and look at some of these data points. So when you select the line here, you'll notice that all of the data points are selected. Select just the data point that you want to have highlighted, and we'll go ahead and make that change. We'll come in here first of all and look at if Brother Man can find it here. Here we are, the marker. So we want to change the marker option, and let's make that this marker here, and we'll do a size of a 7, and let's fill that to be red, just like the example. So when we do that, then you'll notice that red mark is now down there. Also, we can add in, when we select that same data item, we can add in the data label. And you'll notice the 0.74 is now on there. From there, we can again go and change our size so we can see a little bit better. And we'll do a red background color and white font. I know it's a little bit different than that, but I think that's a little bit easier on the eyes to see. So that's a few of the examples there. You can go through the same example and create the same item there for the yellow marker, where you can also make that a larger yellow circle as it asked. And finally, these little price increases. So this is where in the instructions it said that you may have to go in and do an insert shape. So we're just going to insert a triangle shape. And we'll make that here, and we can double click that and color that black, and then copy it and paste it so that we can add those in to those different inflection areas that we want to display here. And then, of course, insert in a text box, and within that text box, we will call this price increase, and change the font size, and we can adjust it down however we need. One important part here is that you'll want to be sure to group these together with the chart. Otherwise, when you go to move the chart, then the chart will move and some of those items will stay the same. So that's a little bit on the first part of the assignment here. The next one, the Pareto chart, it asks us to create this. Now, there's two different ways to do this. Number one, we can just select all of our data items. We can go into insert charts, and there's a certain histogram chart here that actually creates the Pareto chart. So we can do that, and the chart's created. Looks all great and fancy. There's different items that we can go through here and say what we want our our spacing to be on the categories here. But the challenge with this, if we create it this way, is when we go to put our data items on here, it doesn't allow us to add those data items here to the Pareto side like it shows. So there's actually a different way that we're going to create this. So we'll go ahead and delete that chart out. And what we're going to do is select that same area of data there that we want to look at. We do want to still insert a chart, but we're going to start with just our column chart. So when we add in our column chart here, let's go ahead and make some size. Again, we can look at the thickness of this. Go in and change if we want to. Let's see, we've already got it over here. The width and whatnot, we can make those changes. But what we really want to do here is also add in another piece. And so you'll notice here that we have the ability to, we can either go in and change chart type. So if we change this chart type to be a combo chart, and so we want a line along with our column chart here. And on that line, once we select the line, then it's going to allow us to make some changes. And the changes that we want to make here is we want that red line to be on the secondary axes. So now we have that where we want it. So now when we go in and add data labels will now appear on that portion of the chart. We can also go in and add data labels to these as it's instructed. And there's different ways that you can position those data labels, so make sure that they're positioned up top there. And let's see, other items on this to get you going. That should be enough to get you started. And then again, you can go through and change scale size to match what that chart shows. Now onto spark lines. So spark lines, these are fun little charts. It shows us here what these are supposed to look like in the end. And how we create this is under insert, we can actually create a spark line, column, or win-loss. This particular one is a win-loss. It's going to ask us to select our data range. So we're going to select that and say okay. And now that has been created. We can change the colors right there to match what we have. And the nice thing here is you can drag and drop that down, and it's going to create the next sparkline chart for the next data set. Same here with these average temperatures. You can drag and drop those down, and that will make that creation for you. And finally here on this one, we're going to select all of our data that we have here. And we're going to insert the spark chart. And we want that to be a line. And it's going to ask us where we want that to be put. We're going to say right there. And that spark chart should now appear right there for us. So now that looks just like what we wanted it to look like on this side. So that part's done. Spark line 2. This is where we can create individual spark charts because it's showing us the different options that we have. So for instance, in this one, if we just want to say a spark line, it's going to ask where the data range is. We say okay. And there's our first one. Now the next one, we want to do this with markers. So we can create this sparkline again, and our data range right there. And with this particular one, now we want to look at markers. And so we want to marker, let's say that we want to marker it with that those dots, those blue dots there. Again, drag and drop, we can bring all of those down and then start to make the changes as we need to. So these marker colors, we want to look at negative points should be red. Okay, and show axes. So on this one, we're going to do a show axes. So a general axis, show axes. And on this one, on this particular one here, if we release those, oh, you know what? I have been selecting all of those all along as I go down. So let's unselect that and create, unlink those, ungroup. So we need to ungroup all of these. My apologies there. Sparklines ungroup. Okay. All right. So now we want this to be the negative markers. So let's go back into our sparklines line, and we've got our data range and our markers. We want to have negative points be red. And on this one, we want to show the axes. So we'll show axes. And on this one, we want to do a high-low. You'll notice it's a little bit different. So on this particular one, let's do a column. And the high-low mark. So when we color these markers, we want the high point. Let's see, it looks like high point in this is green. And low point is going to be red. That gives us our high-low. Negative, if we just want everything negative, negative points are red. And again, we want to change this to be a column. And this one, the same with the column chart. Negative points are red. And we're also going to show axes. So that is how you do the spark charts. And the last one here on these three types, so I'll leave this up to you. But it's asking what the message for each of the stacked bars are. So what is that telling you? For instance, for each of these charts, stacked, cluster, and 100% stacked. So it's showing us by region, so west, central, and east, by region and by date, whatever that value is. It doesn't have our description up here. So whatever you want to call that value, whether that's revenue, whether that's cost, whatever it is, profit, that is what that's showing. So that's what you'll put in each of these categories. And then also in the assignment, it gave you a link to common misconceptions within charts and how to fix those. So you're going to select how to fix those. I'll just give you one example here. For instance, if you wanted to go in and change the color palette, that was one of the options, is that you could go in and change color. So there's two misconceptions that you have to change. Go ahead and make those changes, and that'll be good. So that gets you off and running on assignment 5-02. Let me know if you have any questions. Thank you.